continue dating chefs because you're never going to be one.
Cooking shows and competitions have always shown how intense and crazy competitors or chefs can get when in the heat of a cook-off. It can lead them to be messy, unorganized, and very weird and sometimes crazy recipe ideas. This can affect their cooking and make their food taste even worse.
Right. I better tell the others.
Most times, people just don't think their food tastes bad, but others will tell them otherwise.
We need to raise the action.
Big time.
Beer and cheese soup.
Will it be the secret to success? Or will he be the first to have his dreams smashed?
Have you ever had or made any unusual combination of foods in one meal?
It's hot, over-spicy chili chocolate sauce.
How about warthog and peanut sauce? In the first episode of MasterChef Season 1, the first contestant who tried out their signature dish for the judges was Chris, a guy who loves craft beer and swore by it as an ingredient for all of his dishes.
I'm cooking for beer cheese soup for you. Yes, I said beer cheese soup.
What person doesn't like a glass of beer with their food? But beer and cheese mixed together sounds like a stretch. Chris made his big debut with the steaming hot pot of cheesy beer goodness, which made the judges tilt their heads with curiosity. And when he explained his dish to the judges, Chris was hopeful when Graham had commented why he liked his dish.
You know, I think there's definitely things that you can improve on that, but I would have no problem sitting down and eating a bowl of that.
But in the end, the two most important people disagreed with how he used beer.
That has to be the most disgusting soup I've ever tasted in my entire life.
Chris loved his beer so much he tried taking it back with him.
Leave that beer here.
Flirty fish tacos.
A former professional soccer player is hoping to score the first apron any way she can.
There are times when charisma helps make dishes taste better, like using a catchphrase.
Bam, bam, bam. And that's how BAM came about.
But in most cases, it does not help with trying to cover up bad flavors. One person thought they could use their charisma to win over the judges. Suzette had a very confident and bubbly manner when she walked in. As she prepared her food, Suzette made comments about how she eats healthy and how she was once a professional Brazilian soccer player.
Excuse me. You played soccer for Brazil?
I heard you played soccer too at one point.
Surprised, Gordon was astounded by the contestant's cockiness as she used her flirting technique to try and sweeten up the judges. She even managed to taunt Gordon by asking if he wanted to play soccer with her after the audition.
I was a forward. If you were a back, I'll take you on.
As each of the chefs went up to try her food, they all had disappointed expressions on their faces. Definitely lowered her self-esteem and ego after those looks. She missed the kick to impress the judges, especially Gordon, who spat out her food. Unapologetically, they red-flagged her food, her flirting technique, and kicked her out.
Can you tell me how to improve on it, please?
The show's not that long.
Close chopping.
If you can't cut an onion, you have no place being in the kitchen.
With unlimited access to many kitchen and cooking videos by professionals, they'll tell and show you that technique is key to an efficient and successful recipe. While there are many funny fail videos of people trying to copy the famous chef's techniques,
at 6 o'clock and you push up and you lift that up.
the real trouble begins when someone is not aware of their own safety that they injure themselves.
30 seconds in, a cut.
Already cut ourselves.
Do we need stitches?
At the beginning of the first MasterChef Season 1 challenge, the 30 contestants made way to their first individual test.
At the age of 22, I got my butt kicked for 15 hours a day, 6 days a week, chopping onions.
Lots and lots of onions. As the challenge progressed on, many of the contestants seemed to be very confident and made sure to try and copy Gordon's fancy knife work, while others in the first few seconds cut themselves.
Stop, you've cut yourself. Medic, please.
Getting cut by a knife and then getting cut from the competition stings twice as much.
Unbelievable.
Bad eggs.
These next 30 minutes will determine who's staying and who's going home.
What better way to start the day than with a plate of breakfast? Nothing is easier than preparing breakfast, right? But what if you had to make one breakfast item shine through everything else? Such as a strawberry French toast, an oatmeal smoothie, or making maple bacon pancakes.
Bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake.
In episode 3 of MasterChef, the remaining 24 contestants were left to make a dish with a main ingredient that would stand out.
Just one stunning single egg.
The contestants took a couple of minutes to realize that a simple egg dish won't take them far unless it tasted more delicious than it looked.
Anyone can cook a 3-minute egg. A MasterChef is defined by what they do with the other 27 minutes.
Frantic, all contestants tried their best to make this shelled little protein become the star of the show. Eliminations of the second trial all came down to 1 egg. Many were good, some managed to squeeze through, but a lot were not very lucky. 1 triplet of bad eggs definitely got cracked from the competition.
You'll all be going home.
Thank you. Bigger trouble in mini China.
It looks like a sort of little chicken noodle vegetable dinner from a gas station.
Going out and getting to try different kinds of foreign foods is always so exciting. In this episode of MasterChef, the judges were ready to move on after they beat out many of the other past contestants and focused on the next cooking challenge at hand.
Ever cooked Chinese food before?
No.
And specifically using the ingredient mandarin oranges.
Sweet, they're sour, they're delicious product.
The majority of the MasterChef contestants didn't really know any kind of real and fresh, authentic Chinese dishes.
The extent of my knowledge of Chinese food is like bell peppers and onions.
What should I do with him? Should we put him in to make him smart jail?
Really big trouble in mini China. If you looked around, they all made basically the same dishes.
Everyone is sort of doing the exact same sort of cliche stir fry with some mandarin oranges on top.
Joe was infuriated enough that he slammed his silverware down.
Don't want to deliver on the highest level. If you want to play the game and be safe, you're not going to win this thing.
The majority of the others were not even close to the idea of what Chinese food was supposed to taste like.
There was a lack of integrity across the dish. Nothing authentic whatsoever.
Not enough to go around.
You know, you really can't pass up an opportunity for steak and barbecue sauce. I gotta hop on it while I can.
When cooking, having the right amount of ingredients is important, but also making sure that the serving size is properly adjusted, especially for those who tend to eat more than 2 servings. If the food is good, people will keep on eating. In episode 5, the remaining 12 contestants were faced with their first team challenge. They had to make 1 entree, 2 appetizers, and a dessert.
All of you will be cooking this for 400 Marines and their families at 1,500 hours.
When they were in the kitchen, the 2 teams had quickly scattered to make sure they had the right size portions for the amount of people they were going to serve.
Puff pastry with cream. These are Marines, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think they do much puff pastry.
One person on the red team completely dumped out the cooked bacon onto the floor.
Oh, by the way, it's cooked perfectly.
Spilling that perfectly cooked bacon was a bad omen for them, because later in the challenge, when they served their honored guests, they ran out of their 2 sides.
Guys, we've got 1 tray of potatoes and 1 tray of vegetables left.
Which left the red team with only the entree and dessert. That made a lot of the military diners switch to the blue team side.
I felt really good that I had cooked those extra loins. I felt real good about that, for sure.
The passion burned out.
If we're on a date and you cook that dish for me, I'd go to the bathroom and you'd never see me again.
When someone falls in love, they will do anything they can put their mind to make a day or night extra special.
Oh, this is good. What's in there?
Well, there's some apples and some cinnamon in my hair.
What?
A romantic evening for 2 by candlelight with a well-cooked dinner to share, perhaps? And if you're not the romantic type, what do you do? In this episode, the contestants had to prove their love to the judges by making a romantic-themed dish.
Don't even go anywhere near playing safe. One of you will be leaving MasterChef.
Some of the contestants had a very eccentric way of showing that on the plate.
You mentioned the passion fruit as a vinaigrette.
Yes.
And that's it.
Although Whitney had very little thought with how to be romantic, Slim had absolutely no idea how to create something for a romantic dinner. Slim lost the romance challenge because of a poorly executed dish of fondue. Joe even threw out her food without even tasting it.
You need to be listening to what we're telling you about what we're producing, because this is ridiculous.
That was some really tough love, or more like full-on rejection.
Back to your station. I'm not tasting this crap.
Dessert disaster.
You produced a trifle that looked like toxic scum on a stagnant pool.
Nothing can beat sweet treats after dinner. Cakes, pies, ice creams, chocolates are the best almost any time of the day. And homemade desserts are even better when cooked with the right hands.
Best apple pie ever.
But what if that person had no real idea of how to cook a dessert?
Deckard. Deckard!
In this episode of MasterChef Season 1, all contestants were pressured to cook a dessert with the secret ingredient,
Vanilla.
If there was one thing the contestants had to be for that round, it would be calm.
If you're not calm, then your nerves are going to affect your cooking.
Some were fine, some were a bit worried.
The meat of my dessert is just, it's not there. It's completely raw inside.
And one was losing their marbles.
You see him, he's jumping back and forth, and he's like shaking and running back and forth.
Stress spelled backwards is dessert. Unfortunately, 3 of the contestants failed to sweeten the deal, and one of them was cut loose. Mike couldn't have his cake and eat it too. What a bitter end.
You have got to slow down, and when you do, you'll surprise yourself about the results.
Fishing for reviews.
Maybe at times it helps to play safe. But I'm not here to do dishes that I've done 10 times before.
If there's one thing that is pertinent to a successful career, it's having the feedback from others to see what works or what doesn't to resolve a problem.
Come on, help me out here. I don't know. You've been pitching that all night. Chewy? Chewy!
Episode 11 of MasterChef Season 1 was about the contestants having to impress
Some of the most powerful critics anywhere in the world.
The last 5 chefs of the season faced their last field challenge, where they had to persuade tough food critic writers with their gourmet dishes. Even the judges didn't want to look bad, and they weren't even cooking.
We got a lot riding on this too, guys. Don't embarrass us.
But once the food reached the critics, there was one that wasted his prized bait.
It was so beautiful this morning. Really a great day. I wasn't very close with my mom. I grew up with my dad, and I moved out when I was a freshman in college. On January 2nd, my kid was born. Grab this, grab that, saute this, saute that.
He presented the worst tasting piece of the fish to try and impress the critics, along with a list of other bad features of his dish. If it looks like chum bait, smells like chum bait, it must be chummy.
I've been cooking for 25 years. I wouldn't have taken that risk today.
Country fried flop.
There's a lot riding on this dish that I was presenting to them, and it had to be amazing.
Have you ever been in a restaurant where you or someone spilled food on you? Nothing is worse than watching someone or something spill your soy green tea latte frappuccino with extra whip all over the floor. Many people say and play the 5-second rule before going after their fallen food.
Is there any truth to it? Or is it just something that we say to allow us to eat food off the floor?
That isn't something that will hold up in a cooking competition. Not even in any kind of event or setting.
With 10 minutes left in the first ever final of MasterChef. Keep it going, Whitney, Dave, come on!
In the last episode of MasterChef Season 1, the contestants hurried to get their dishes prepared and completed before they plated. As they tried to beat the clock, one of the final contestants was getting her plates ready when her downfall was one utensil she used to pick up her main entree. During that final battle, Whitney had dropped her main dish while she was going to plate it. Nothing says flopped bad like a country fried chicken flop. Can't cry over spilled chicken.
Whitney, you're not letting that title slip from your hands. It's so close.
What a mess! Those were some of the worst moments and dishes on MasterChef Season 1. What do you think were the worst moments or dishes? And if you want to see more videos like this, click or tap that subscribe button. And in order to become a trusted Babble Topper, be sure to ding the bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Thanks for watching!